Hi, my name is Kristen and I'm your host for Icons of Naples, this series where we honor our Naples community heroes, our movers, shakers, and history makers who helped make our community the place we love to call home. Hello and welcome back to part 2 with Paul Arsenault of the Icons of Naples. So we really dove deep into some of Paul's history previously on our episode 1. Today we are going to explore some more of the legacy of his work, the art in this community, and let's get going. I do want to ask you a question that I forgot to ask you on the first part, was if you could step back into an era of Naples, whether you lived here or not, let's say the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 70s, whatever era, which would you say you would go back to, or go to?
Well, I think the 50s for me would be a fun time, just because that was when, the greatest generation that were kids during the Depression. They muscled through World War II,
Yeah.
And with the exuberance, celebration, with after the war and coming to Naples and paradise, and the personalities, the characters, and the genteel appreciation of this beautiful town back then. It would have been a lot of fun with what I know, and especially getting here in the 70s, meeting those people in their 50s, 60s. They were wonderful personalities, and they had great stories of the 50s, especially BC, before Castro, because they would just jump down to Cuba, and that was another great thing about Naples. It's geography, because you had the Bahamas, you had you had the islands down south, like Cuba, which was quite a wild place, and of course there's Central America, with a lot of people tapped into Costa Rica, and there was just a very hip engagement with the region of with Naples as your base. There was a lot of fun playgrounds around.
And people, I think this generation forgets we did do things in the 50s. We could get around.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I was here, but I would hear stories of, my grandparents traveling, not just driving. There were boats back then. It wasn't that long ago. So if you had to say some of the people that you met back then that you wish you could have a conversation with today, who would be some of the ones you'd go back to that were in their 50s and 60s then?
Well,
or that you had great conversations with?
Well, I had a wonderful, meeting with Lester Norris.
Wow.
He was a little older then, but I loved my connection with him. It was terrific. He was a great hero to this community.
Well, explain to everybody who he was, because people don't know why we have the Norris Center.
Well, Lester Norris was he had married a gal who was an heiress to the family of Texaco, but not directly. And Lester was oddly enough a cartoonist for the Chicago Tribune. And somehow the true heir to become chairman of the board of Texaco was forfeited, and it came on to Lester.
Wow.
And so he ended up having a whole new career other than that of a cartoonist, but he took it by the horns, and he was a truly magnificent example of philanthropy and environmental protection to save this place how he could. And with his engagement with people, he was responsible for Rookery Bay, for stopping the road that was going to run all the way down to Marco on the coast through Keewaydin. Conservancy. When the pier was destroyed by Donna, he replaced it.
Wow.
And so, and imagine Delano Wiggins State Park, he gave it to the community. And so his example was truly magnificent of seeing a need, and especially for his stepping up and being such a terrific example. He was terrific, and he introduced me to his daughter Laverne Gaynor, who was another hero.
Yes.
And so it was. I always loved that her daddy introduced us. Anyway, these were just people that were a terrific example in coming here and just seeing what you could do when you focused on the priorities of community.
See, those are things that people don't understand. Like when I came, Keewaydin was still a private island, and I had friends who worked over there, where they had to take the boat from the end of Port Royal and go back and forth. And now, there's homes on there. And people don't understand how we ended up with, let's say, the Norris Center, or that there isn't the road, or that there's I didn't know the Delano Wiggins Pass thing. I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. And I've tried to research stuff, but these are things that people just don't know how they got there. They just assume that, it came from the state, or no, somebody had to give it to the state kind of thing. That's incredible. Is there now, I grew up on a street called Frank Whiteman, and I ended up living next door to Mr. Frank Whiteman. But then there's other places downtown that have names that are named after people. Is there, besides Norris, is there a building that was named after somebody, or that we still have? I know there was Fleshman family. Right. That's obvious. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trying to think, there was something I know some of the stuff we have is newer. Like the bakers and things like that.
Right. As far as I'm kind of drawing a blank right now.
Well, if it comes up, if you think of it.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah.
Yeah, if it comes up. Well, here we go. Look at my next question. If you were naming 3 icons of Naples, peoples, places, or tradition, doesn't have to be people, just 3 icons of Naples that best represent the city's essence, which would you choose and why?
Well, I think I would have thrown Leicester in there as one of them. But Franklin Adams is a real hero to our community and county. A great naturalist. He actually introduced Eileen and I to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, who was a superstar of the environment, and talk about an example, a model, a mentor. She was amazing to witness and to read about her story. Franklin, his daddy was a surveyor for the Everglades National Park, so he got to tag along, meeting a lot of the old hermits and things that were and families out there, and so he had a direct connect, and a very committed, dedicated, passionate guy, very knowledgeable, and a wonderful storyteller, and he was a great person to meet early on. As
How
far
about place,
well, the pier is really something that is, and in fact, living a block away from it has been very helpful in my visits. But there is, Corkscrew Sanctuary is a special place. Yeah. And the fact that we have such places, you want more Naples-centric as opposed to the outskirts, I suppose.
Oh, I think if it just has the word Naples in it, because I think there's places we concentrate a lot on, because our history is mostly Old Naples. That's where Naples sprung from, all of Collier County. But I think there's a lot of history all around Collier County.
Oh, yeah.
North, south, east, west.
Well, Naples was Palookaville as opposed to the other parts of Marco was a real happening place. Marco was a very romantic waterfront. Chokoloskee was happening before that. Everglades
People don't
City.
know about Chokoloskee.
There was nothing in Naples when there was happening down in Everglades City and Chokoloskee. And Marco was like a very romantic Ernest Hemingway kind of port, but of course Naples did have the hotel, and they had they had a few very nice homes on the beach that, but there wasn't much going. For 30 years you couldn't drive to the old hotel because there was no roads. You had to take the boat. So
people don't, like the younger generation, I wouldn't expect this, but I remember like when I moved here, the hotel was a parking lot, like when I got here.
Yeah, right.
But when I learned that there was a hotel and that the pier was used for things to be brought to Naples and that the road came later, and that's why Everglades City stopped being as popular, because then the road came from both directions and people stopped here instead of stopping on the way into town, which was Everglades, Chokoloskee, and Marco.
Right. Well, the reason Everglades City was no longer the county seat is because of Hurricane Donna. And so that's the reason for that. Everglades City, it has quite an interesting history, and running into the characters down there and early on was really a lot of fun. But here again, there was. You just never know who you were going to meet. And when I did my first early shows, it was just kind of fun to just, have these old characters with their sneakers with holes in them and buying a painting and taking it to their house. And oh my God.
I happen to be so-and-so.
Yeah, right. I delivered one painting one time, and a butler answered the door. I was on the beach, and there was a statuette of an Oscar. And I just said, "Excuse me, but I got to ask you, where'd you get the Oscar?" And she, as if it was, that. Well, that was my second, or was it my third husband who got that? But it was dismissed as just a little
a trinket.
Trinket.
But Naples, and it still has a little bit of that allure too.
Oh,
there
sure.
is still a very unassuming-ness to here. Mm-hmm. I know that people want to make it a little bit more out there, but it's one of those pockets, I think, in the U.S. where people are just, they come here, they move here, but they don't need to be known.
Right.
They would prefer the anonymity, which is what Naples was always known for when I was younger. Mm-hmm. We used to talk back home, because I'm from Connecticut. We used to talk back home and it'd be like, "Oh, did you know so-and-so lives there?" And I was like, I had no idea. Mm-hmm. Or later on, I'd say the opposite. "Oh, so-and-so lives there." Mm-hmm. Somebody was showing a house or something and it happened to be theirs. And we didn't know until we got there that they even lived here. Mm-hmm. And I think it's remained with some of that allure. They just want their peace and quiet. One of our legacies. Mm-hmm. Our little pockets. So now let's get into, you've partnered with the nonprofit, a lot of nonprofits. Mm-hmm. We talked about the one earlier for Dominica. I want to say Dominica, but Dominica. And you've done environmental, historic, health, all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. Since it says 1983 is what I read, but it seems like longer.
Yeah, 80 was Dominica and and the depot, but 83 was the Conservancy, and I did.
There's one.
I did 3 shows there in a row, and that was great to get engaged there. I actually had lived in the late 70s on that property, which was an old Fleischmann property, and
that's right, it was. Yeah.
And so that was a very cool thing. Being next to the zoo, you were awakened by the feeding of the lions, and they had a whole bunch of lions, and it was just
wake up call.
Yeah, that
Who
was
needs
what
an
it
alarm?
was. But yeah, and talk about fruit trees, because the zoo was originally the botanical garden of the legendary, what was his name? Nearing, Henry Nearing? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Henry
It sounds
Nearling.
familiar.
Nearling. He came in 1919 and just took took that property and brought in. He had a magnificent botanical garden near Orlando, but he had 3 freezes in a row, and which wiped out his 45-acre botanical garden there.
Yikes.
He was invited to Naples and came and created a magnificent botanical garden there. And sadly, he died in 29. The place went fallow until Fleischmann bought it and then doubled the size of it. And so with Nearling's knowledge, he was a pioneer horticultural rock star. He was the hero of even Teddy Roosevelt from before. But Edison, all those guys loved him. Fairchild. So on that property next to the zoo, we had the best fruits and vegetables of anywhere of the world, and so it was so bountiful. And the only tree now that's exotic is the largest species of its kind. It's a Burmese rosewood, a magnificent tree.
Wow.
That, imagine in the springtime, the first, I think it's 85 degrees in the early morning when it rains, it explodes with yellow blossoms for 24 hours.
And that's it.
And that's it.
Wow.
And that's the only tree they left from the old days. But thankfully, that was the ringer.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. I remember when the zoo when I moved here, it was called Jungle Larry's.
Yes.
I remember the sign was in front of the mall with a little, like kind of
It's back,
Oh, is it really?
Well, it's not back there. It's back at the entrance, the new entrance to the place.
The new entrance.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to drive by again and check. But yeah, those are the Conservancy. People don't realize how long it's been here. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's got to be that's our oldest, probably.
No, not Audubon is.
Audubon. Yeah. Okay, Audubon.
Eileen will tell you about that with her interview.
Yeah, we have to get her on. Let's see. So I forgot where I was. We got into the deep in there. When you look back at your body of work, which I've seen, wow, you have a lot. I mean, I saw the book, the calendars, your home. I mean, you have a lot of work. But when you look at your body of work, let's say 100 years from now, looking back at it, what do you hope they understand about Naples culture and your role as a visual storyteller?
Well, I hope that they can appreciate that I had a certain ability to honor my place in time and to be able to further present those people that not only were important of that time, but contributed to making things better in the generations to come. And I just really appreciate more and more the people that really saved things for us. And God knows, with the generations to come, we've got to do as much as we can to keep things as important and as cherished as possible. But it's a difficult thing with all the elements that are fighting against preservation and climate and all that.
Well, I have to agree with you on the preservation part, because being here, just a short time compared to a lot of people, but a long time, long enough to see. I tell people we're on our third change. Is how I feel since I got here, because we had the change in the 80s, then we had the early 2000s, and then this one, which was kind of forced because of a hurricane just wiping out so much, and then building codes and things like that. But then I look at other things and I see an entire neighborhood completely against its construction. And somehow, and I keep saying, when you put it up, it will be there forever, especially the size of some of them. And then there's other ones I look at and I'm like, yeah, it really needed something there.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a place, I think, for things. I had the daughter of Altamarian, I can't remember her, Zara Altamarian, I think it was, on my previous podcast. And she said, you know, her father was a big Altamarian, big developer here. And she says, I really don't mind development. It just has to be responsible.
Right. There are great examples for and how development has addressed climate change, preservation, and the specialness of their place. And when you see that, you say, now that's how to do it.
Right.
But it's it's a different situation sometimes when you're a hyper resort. There's a lot of considerations that aren't put forward, but you can do it if you have the inclination and the backing behind it.
Yeah, living in Pelican Bay, I've come to appreciate. When I first moved here, I was very young, and they had the Mangrove Action Committee, and then the mangroves would die off. They did some work on Vanderbilt, and I would get these. This fold over kind of newspapery thing. And it would say, we're meeting, the mangroves are dying, be here at 6. Like, it was very brief back then. I'm like, what about the mangroves? And then you have a storm and you realize, oh, that's what the mangroves are for. Because the amount that they absorb tidally, just not the depth, but the force of a wave that they absorb is amazing. I think this was a lot of foresight for them, even though people complain about some of the stuff that's been built. If you're going to have to mesh the two and still make money and still preserve, I really always look at it and I say, somebody thought ahead, versus some of the other areas. And I understand it being in real estate. I think I have this right. In Park Shore, they're like up and back, and that was one of the high rises. For people who don't know, they're built up and back. And that was one of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of midway points they met on, so they wouldn't all be in a straight line and and that was something. It gave some green spaces between it, which I said, okay, I walk down there a lot, so I'm like, oh, this made it unique. But then I look sometimes and I say, are they a little close? Are they a little close? We've got berms and we've got things like that. But then I'm like, they feel like they're a little close. I think nowadays, after you watch the things that are going on in North Carolina, they feel close now. Because we're a peninsula. Right. Which, as you've been to the islands, it's ever changing. You've been to Bahamas. We've all been to the Bahamas. It's ever changing. The water's going to do what the water wants to do, I think. So that's my 2 cents on development. I have to walk a thin line, having done real estate all these years. People go, you're part of the problem. And I say, but I don't like the building either. I don't want it there. But you have the triangle, which they redeveloped over there on 5th. I think they're doing a good job there. I mean, they're putting in some high rises, but it, to me, fits. It's on a road versus a water.
Yeah, right. Well, it's there.
Yeah. So anyways, that's, like I said, my 2 cents on the on the construction of things. Who have been your mentors or influencers for your art and how they shaped your work?
Just in town.
I'm kind of curious as to overall, because I read a few names in the book that influenced you when you were young, and then the influence seemed to change as you came here. Or maybe I have that wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, there was, early on when I was just kind of starved for just learning all the wonderful backstories to the paintings that intrigued me as I was just beginning to absorb. So, I loved certain artists in certain ways. I loved the draftsmanship of Toulouse-Lautrec. I copied 25 of his paintings just to learn how he did that.
Oh, okay.
I love Winslow Homer and just his love of the New England landscape and the tropics. He was a fabulous facile artist, but coming here, when I was on that ship over in Fort Pierce, the trustees gave us a little reception. One of them asked who did the painting in the galley. I was introduced to her. She said, "You're coming with me after this." And we walked down the citrus dock across a field. And that was, and it was Beanie Backus's studio, the dean of Florida landscape painting, and the mentor of the original Highwayman painters. So that was my first house, my first, Floridian off the boat, and he was tremendous. He really, we became dear friends, and he just, "Paul, you're here. Learn to love Florida and the landscape," and I did.
And that's when it shifted. Do you think your style shifted during that time?
He was a good traditional landscape painter, and my style. I likened it to borrowing aspects of different painters. I loved the atmospheric quality of Monet, but I didn't like the mushiness. I liked the strokes and the rhythms and the patterns, Matisse, and so using all these different techniques and elements of painting were all a part of just my voice. But I met Richard Siegelman early on, who was a beloved painter here. His aunt and uncle had one of the more colorful bars downtown in the early 50s, the Anchor Bar, and the old timers will remember, or maybe not. But they were there.
Whether they were old enough or not.
Right. But Richard, he was bartending in the 50s there. And he bought a painting of mine. In fact, it was a painting I did out in Key Waden when I met Lester, and he was my connection to the New York art scene in a direct way, because we threw his 50th birthday party, and he passed a couple of years ago at 86. So we were just dear friends all along, and that connectivity with the contemporary scene of New York, the art colony of Woodstock where he lived, and he stayed with us when he came to Naples, and so that was a great engagement. Olga Hirshhorn was a great influence, and she ran with the big dogs. Joe Hirshhorn, he's got his own museum at the Smithsonian there, and her stories were fabulous. Picking up masterpieces from Picasso it just was, and the kinds of people that were coming through at
Again, people
dinners.
don't know who came to Naples, who was here.
Right. No, it was terrific stars of their cultural time, and it was just it was wonderful to be kind of a witness to these most interesting people. So I can't remember the question anymore.
No, this is okay. Yeah, just let it go. Let it rip, because and those are names that, like, people came here, or they visited here, or they lived here, and it's not just that it was not so much forgotten. It's that it was just a little, the unknown of part of what we do here in Naples. It's just like a little bubble. Everybody just kind of doesn't really talk about, oh, I met so and so. We don't have to, because they're here all the time. So are there hidden or overlooked corners of Naples, alleys, marshes, transitional zones, that you believe truly capture its spirit, or you still hope to paint, that you haven't painted yet?
Well, being here 50 years, I've pretty much painted all the corners. But what I'm knowing and feeling going forward is what we're leaving for the next generation. Okay. And what is the most important thing is for me, the most threatened thing is the water. Whether it's the fresh water, the drinking water, the aquifers,
Yeah.
The oceans. Red tide happened once every 25 years, and now it's
More frequent.
It's a real different thing. And the environment is critical, and Corkscrew Swamp is threatened directly right now with a project that's a monster. So that kind of thing, how can that happen in this time with what we know? It's just a matter of the momentum of things, the priority of things, and the vision of the powers that be.
And I agree with you.
Or the lack thereof.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Again, getting back to the ocean, if we rely so heavily on our tourism dollars, see, to me, this is where logic comes in. Some people don't have that. Is, well, you want to protect what brings the money that you want to build with. So protect so you can do your job. And the state relies heavily, the whole state, on tourism dollars. So protect what people come to see. I mean, that's just my logic. Apparently not everybody has that logic.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you on that. And I've learned more, and I think there's more news about it lately. There's a few people up in Hillsborough that are really, really gotten, they're getting it out, the word about water. And Florida, they just took up the torch and are running with it. And that's really where I've learned a lot about what we're talking about here. So actually, you just answered that one. Now, is there anything I haven't asked you that you wanted to cover in this interview, or just to let us know about in your world that you've been here?
Well, as a matter of fact, we have one block left of the historic district.
You did mention that to me before. Yes, tell us all about that, because I want to hear.
It's just that we have Palm Cottage, which is terrific, and they've just acquired the neighboring property to our property on that block.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Well, it's been acquired for a couple of years now, and it's now a museum, the Smith Museum, the Mary Smith Museum, and as an annex to Palm Cottage with that has historic displays and all that. On the other side of Palm Cottage is the gardens, and where they have the chickie chats, which are most informative, and that's where you can hear from the horse's mouth the characters of the old days. The old timers can chime in there and speak there once in a while. But our place, I must say, is most picturesque and historic. 4 old cottages there. It was under contract until this past weekend, where it fell through. And what's so sad about that is we didn't put it on the open market because we knew it would be bought right away and torn down right away. We were looking for someone who saw the vision of buying it, to raise it up and to really keep it preserve it, and it was a rare person that has that vision. As you know, in real estate, they want it ready to go, and or just scrape and do it their own way. But to be able to find someone who gets it, that we could have for the generations to come, a wonderful old compound in connection with the oldest, the historic designated block of Naples, right down from the pier, right by the pier. It's just happened that it fell through, sadly. Fortunately, I don't have to leave December 1st, so that.
You get another season.
I get. Well, we'll see. God willing. Right. I would love to.
Well, we're putting it out there.
Yeah, that's great.
So
that's terrific.
We're not looking for a developer to scrap it. I'm just telling y'all right now, not interested. But there's definitely historical artists, well-connected type people who can fund it financially to save and keep and preserve.
Right.
I have seen it, and Zach and I have talked about, Zach's our camera guy. Zach and I have talked, and I mentioned to you about coming back and just doing a walkthrough, almost like a drone walkthrough, because I was in love If I could buy it tomorrow, I would, because I was absolutely in love with the architecture, the styling, the history capsule. I mean, it checks all the boxes.
Well, it does. And even the most fervent developers sit back and say, wow, this should be saved.
Right.
And so it's got that immediate impact of if this could be saved, this would be special for the community and for generations to come.
It can be.
And the 4 different cottages could be all different categories of community engagement. So anything is possible. So anyway, that's my pitch.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because it is a very, very special place. And I know it will be preserved, because it's just, I can't rave about it enough. I think I've told everybody about when you showed me around. I was like, you're not gonna believe what I saw, because I went on my trip the next day, and I told everybody about it. I was like, you guys aren't gonna believe this. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Well, we are wrapping up our second episode with Paul here. It's one thing to live in a place. It's another thing to live in it and watch it change as much as Naples has. And then devote your life to capturing literally all the corners, all the corners, and the stories that have come, and we've captured them for generations, and you've captured them for many generations in your artwork to come. So preserving Naples, and all that we know is why we're here with Icons of Naples, and why we have Paul as our icon today. We hope this conversation has helped you understand and deepen your appreciation for this community that we have here in Naples, Florida, and for Paul's work, which you can catch at his studio, which is...
Studios on the corner of Gordon and 12th Avenue South under the banyan tree.
So you can get in touch with Paul. You have a website, right?
Right. ArsenaultStudio.com.
Yes, it's ArsenaultStudio.com. We will also have it in the byline of the podcast episode and all social media. So you can just click on that and follow Paul and go pick up some art. This stuff is great. I love it. I'm like looking around and going, I moved. So all my art's in the boxes and storage, because I'm like, where do you buy it for a wall and you don't know where you're going to put it. But anyways, I'm getting off topic here. So thank you for joining us again on another episode of Icons of Naples. We will see you again on our next episode, where we share with you more history and more iconic information. Have a great day.